What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and if you are new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now because today we are breaking down one of the most jaw-dropping, earth-shattering stories to come out of the NHL in years. I am talking about a move so big, so bold, so absolutely insane that Leafs Nation is losing its mind right now, and honestly, I do not blame them one single bit. So sit back, grab your blue and white jersey because what we are about to talk about changes everything, and I mean everything about the Toronto Maple Leafs and the entire Eastern Conference race. For years, and I am talking decades, Leafs fans have been waiting for ownership to go all in, waiting for management to stop playing it safe, waiting for the front office to finally look at the calendar, look at the window and say enough is enough, we are building a dynasty right now. And if the reports coming out of Toronto in the last 24 hours are to be believed, that moment has finally arrived. The Maple Leafs have reportedly signed and acquired one of the most coveted players in the entire league, a generational talent that every contender in the NHL was chasing, and somehow, someway, Toronto got him. Let that sink in. Toronto got him. Now before we get into the full breakdown, I want to paint the picture of where this team was just a few months ago, because context matters here. The Maple Leafs were sitting at a crossroads. Everyone could see it. The core was aging, the cap situation was complicated, and the pressure on Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and William Nylander to finally push past the first round was reaching an absolute boiling point. The fan base was divided. Some people were calling for a full rebuild. Others were screaming that the window was closing fast and the time to act was right now. Management clearly heard the second group. What makes this signing so unbelievable is not just the player himself. It is what it signals about the organization's mentality. This is not a depth signing. This is not a guy brought in to be a third-line piece or a defensive specialist. The player Toronto has reportedly brought in is a legitimate number one impact guy. The kind of player that makes opponents adjust their entire game plan just to account for him. The kind of guy that, when his name appears on the ice sheet, the other coach leans over to his assistant and says, "We have a problem tonight." That is who this is. That is the level we are talking about. And here is where it gets even more interesting, because the ripple effect of this acquisition cannot be overstated. Think about what the Maple Leafs lineup now looks like when you stack it top to bottom. You already had Austin Matthews, one of the most lethal goal scorers the NHL has seen in a generation. A guy who can score from anywhere on the ice and who opponents simply cannot shut down no matter what they try. You already had Mitch Marner, arguably the most creative playmaker in the entire Eastern Conference, a guy with a hockey IQ that is completely off the charts. You already had William Nylander, who has evolved into one of the most dynamic and dangerous two-way forwards in the league. And now you are layering this new acquisition on top of all of that. That is not just a good team anymore. That is a problem for every single team in this league. The defensive side of this roster has also taken a major step forward. Toronto has been addressing their blue line in a serious way, and the pieces they now have protecting their crease give this team a completely different identity than the Leafs teams we have watched in previous playoff runs. Because let us be brutally honest here, the reason Toronto kept getting bounced in the postseason was not always about effort or talent on the offensive side of the puck. It was about what happened when the game tightened up, when series went to Game 6 and Game 7, when you needed your defense to hold a lead and your goalie to stand on his head. That version of the Maple Leafs seemed to wilt under the pressure. But this version looks different. This version looks like it was built specifically for those moments. The goaltending situation in Toronto deserves its own conversation because when you have a roster this talented in front of your goalie, it gives him a chance to breathe, to settle in, to play his game without feeling like one mistake ends the season. Great teams make their goaltenders better because the defensive structure and the offensive firepower take so much pressure off the position. And right now, with this roster coming together the way it is, the Maple Leafs goalie is going to have more support than any Leafs netminder has had in a very long time. Now let us talk about what this means for the rest of the Eastern Conference because make no mistake, the phones around the league were ringing off the hook after this news dropped. Other general managers were watching this happen and reassessing their own rosters in real time. The Boston Bruins, the Florida Panthers, the Carolina Hurricanes, the New York Rangers, every one of those franchises now has to look at the Maple Leafs differently. You cannot dismiss Toronto anymore. You cannot look at the playoff bracket and think of them as an easy out or a team that is going to crumble when the pressure builds. That narrative is officially over. What the Leafs have done is essentially drawn a line in the sand and said to the rest of the conference, "Come and get us. We are not afraid of you. We are not building towards something someday. We are here right now, we are ready right now, and we are coming for everything." That kind of statement, made not with words but with actual roster moves, changes the psychological dynamic of an entire playoff race. Teams are going to be thinking about Toronto differently heading into every single game from here on out. The salary cap management required to pull this off also deserves serious credit, because in today's NHL, finding the space to add a player of this caliber without gutting your entire roster is an art form. General managers around the league are going to be studying how Toronto did this for years, because on paper it should not have been possible. The fact that they made it happen while keeping their core intact tells you everything about how seriously this front office is taking the current window and how committed they are to winning right now. Leafs Nation, I need you to understand the magnitude of what just happened. This is not business as usual. This is not another quiet off-season acquisition that makes you shrug and say, okay, well, maybe next year. This is a seismic shift. This is the organization betting on itself in the biggest possible way. And the players in that locker room know it too. When a move like this gets made, it sends a message to every guy in the building. It tells your best players that the people running this franchise believe in them. It tells your younger guys that this organization is serious about winning. It creates an energy and a belief that you simply cannot manufacture. It has to be earned through action, and this front office just earned it. I have been covering the Maple Leafs for a long time on this channel, and I can say without hesitation that I have not felt this kind of genuine excitement about a Toronto roster in years. Not the cautious optimism we have been selling ourselves every October. Real, legitimate, back up your excitement with actual evidence optimism. Because when you look at what is on paper right now, when you lay out that lineup and you look at the depth and the skill and the experience in that room, it is genuinely hard to see who in the Eastern Conference is going to be able to match them over a 7-game series. There are still details to be confirmed. There are still questions to be answered. And as always, we will stay on top of every single development as it comes out. If there is something you want me to break down more specifically, the cap numbers, the lineup projections, the potential playoff matchups, drop it in the comments below and we will cover it all. And if you are as fired up about this as I am right now, smash that like button. Share this video with every Leafs fan you know, because they need to hear this. This is the one, guys. This might actually be the one. Make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss a single video as this story keeps developing, and I will see you in the next one. Let's go Leafs!